Coming up next, the fascinating story of an 80s mega hit song that topped the charts in 25 countries. It almost never happened. When today's rookie was searching for his first hit, he got picked up by one of the world's premier production teams. Only instead of letting him record an album, they had him doing chores around the studio, assigning him to make tea for the crew and such. But when they finally gave him a chance, he made the most of it, and he created a catchy ditty that came from an argument he had with his girlfriend. But when he showed the song to his famous production team, they absolutely hated it. They refused to release it. It was only by chance it started to get airplay. You're going to find out how next. But when it did, it stormed the charts, and nobody even knew who this mystery man was. It led to 3 massive hits. Then he up and vanished. But decades later, today's iconic track was resurrected and became the mother of all pop culture tracks. It became the biggest prank song in history. The story? Great one. It's coming up next. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember cruising your driveway, your first big wheel, you're going to dig this channel of pure musical nostalgia. Make sure that you subscribe below right now, click the big red button, and click the bell so that you always know when our latest interviews are coming out. Also visit us on Patreon. Consider joining our forces there. We have even more content. You can become an honorary producer. And also take a look at our merch. Our logo t-shirts are below, like the one I'm wearing. So it's time for another edition of our series, The New Standards. This is a show that takes an in-depth look into songs that transcend genre, decade, and fads. Songs that are monumental touchstones in our culture and within our society. I'm likely going to take some heat today for calling today's song a standard, but stick with me on this one because it's all time. It's time to induct Rick Astley's global and multi-generational smash hit, Never Gonna Give You Up. You're getting eternally rickrolled today, my friends. So, Never Gonna Give You Up may not be the most technically superior song. However, if you consider its storied history, you just can't deny that it's accomplished what few other songs have, or ever will. Never Gonna Give You Up may be the definition of being a monumental touchstone in our culture and society. I mean, it has so seamlessly infiltrated popular culture that I doubt it's ever gonna fade away. And I think today's episode is going to prove that, so bear with me here. All right, let's go back to the start and get into the story. Born in 1966, Rick Astley grew up in a small English town called Newton-le-Willows. At a young age, he turned to music as a way to escape a difficult family situation. And initially, he tried his hand at drumming. As a teenager, he joined a soul band called FBI as their drummer. While in FBI, he also started learning guitars and writing his own songs. Then when he sang them for his bandmates, they all agreed that he should be the lead singer. His voice, it was incredible. So Astley dropped the drumsticks and picked up the mic. When Rick was 19 years old, FBI entered a Battle of the Bands contest. And one of the judges was none other than Peter Waterman of the famed production team Stock Aitken Waterman. Or, of course, SAW for short. Pete Waterman, he must have liked what he heard because he reached out to Rick Astley to sign him to his record label. But it was just him, not the rest of the band. Although he was conflicted, Rick took Waterman up on the offer. So he signed with SAW and he relocated to London. The plan was to make a record together, or at least that's what Rick thought. However, the start of his musical career with SAW, it wasn't very illustrious. For 2 years, Rick learned the trade the hard way by doing everything except making a record. You know, he operated the tape machines, he sang on recordings for other singers. Most importantly, he made tea for everybody. I mean, this is England we're talking about after all. It was just a lot of thankless jobs. Soon enough, Rick started to wonder, what had he signed up for? But the way that Waterman saw it, Rick was just a kid from a small town. He was shy, he was reserved, and he wasn't really sure of himself. You know, Pete wanted to ease Rick into the music business, to give him some experience in the industry before, launching an album. But when Rick Astley got on the mic, no one could deny the power of his incredible voice. And eventually the team decided to write a song for him. So around this time, Rick was actually living with Pete at his flat. They pretty much rode to the studio together about every day. So I guess Pete had one of those gigantic 80s cell phones. It was like a big brick. Well, one morning on the way to work, Waterman was on the phone for hours, fighting with his girlfriend. And they were really having it out. And then Pete finally hung up and he threw this phone in frustration. And then Rick said, "Yeah, but you're never going to give her up, are you?" In that moment, Pete Waterman realized what Rick Astley had said. It was a perfect idea for a song. So he started working out the tune in his head. Now, when they arrived at the studio, Waterman ran through the Dell yelling, "I've got it, I've got it." He then tracked down their keyboardist and he sang a very simple version of "Never Gonna Give You Up." So then they played it back for Mike Stock, and he thought it was rubbish. Those were his words. But he also said he knew what they were trying to do. So he told Pete Waterman, go grab a coffee, or was it a tea, and come back later. Then along with Matt Aiken, he started to flesh this song out. Now, after getting a handle on it, they sat down, wrote the verses, and they put Rick in the recording booth. However, when the track was done, when it was complete, none of the team liked it, except for Rick Astley. So they actually shelved it. I mean, can you imagine? What Rick Astley would say about it, he said, "I think they were unconvinced of my voice and the way I looked and, me being able to front it." And honestly, Rick Astley had his doubts too. Here he was, this shy, inexperienced kid, and he looked like a kid with this larger-than-life voice. The two just didn't seem to fit. It was probably that perception of Rick Astley more than anything that kept Saw from releasing this song. But Rick knew that it was a hit from the start. And as the days and the months passed, he started to grow frustrated. That it was locked up in cold storage, as it were. Eventually, though, Pete sent the tape to Mixmag. It was a popular UK publication. And not too long after that, Waterman was driving and listening to the radio when out of nowhere, "Never Gonna Give You Up" came on, the first rickroll. He was shocked, but apparently Mixmag had passed the song on to Capital Radio in London. Capital started playing it nonstop, and the cat was out of the bag. Radio stations started picking it up all over the world, and the song went from nothing to #1, really in no time at all. Funny thing was, nobody had any idea who Rick Astley was. There was no video yet, there was no album, and there wasn't even a photo of Rick Astley. The man was a complete mystery. In fact, because of his voice, a lot of people assumed he was a black artist. I mean, hearing that voice, you'd understand why. Quickly Saw put together a video, though. But according to Astley, they didn't have a clue about how to go about it. But somehow they managed to create one of the quintessential 80s music videos. So as for Quiet Rick, he had never been in front of a camera before. He had no idea what to expect, and he was completely intimidated. They just kind of threw him in there and told him to dance. We're no strangers to love. In fact, Saw was so unprepared, they didn't even have a wardrobe for Astley. All those classic outfits you see in the video, they were all Rick's. The raincoat, the black turtleneck, the striped shirt and blazer. And yeah, it was Rick's idea to rock that double denim. And so the production team surrounded Rick with professional dancers who had some pretty serious moves, including that killer off-the-wall backflip that everybody remembers. So very 80s. But the prize for the best dance moves in the video have to go to the man himself. Now, Rick admittedly had no idea what he was doing, but it worked. In his words, "I just shuffled around a bit. I was about as vulnerable as you could possibly be making that video." As hard as shooting the video must have been for Astley, though, there was at least some good news. He was never going to have to make another cup of tea for those producers again. He was a hit machine. I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. So here in the US, Never Gonna Give You Up, it went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the Cashbox chart, and the Dance Club chart. In the UK, it was the biggest single in 1987. Stayed at #1 for 5 weeks. And then there was The Rest of the World. Never Gonna Give You Up. It killed it across the globe. It topped the charts in 25 different countries. In fact, the list is so long here, it's easier just to give you the countries where the song didn't go to number one. It didn't go to number one in France. It went to number 6. In Austria, it went to number 4. Iceland, Switzerland, and Ireland, it reached number 2. There you go. Basically, everywhere from Australia to Zimbabwe, Never Gonna Give You Up took top spot honors. Huge song. This song was so big that sometimes it's easy to forget that there was an album that went along with it. Eventually, Astley's debut album, Whenever You Need Somebody, that was released on November 16th, 1987 by RCA Records. It was almost half a year after Never Gonna Give You Up broke. And like the song that preceded it, it was a sensation. It went to the top 5 in a host of countries, except the US, where it actually underperformed at number 10. Kind of surprising. In the UK, Astley followed up Never Gonna Give You Up with the singles Whenever You Need Somebody and a cover of When I Fall in Love. Those both went to number 3 and number 2 respectively.
Whenever you need somebody. When I fall in love.
Alternatively, in the US, Together Forever, that came next. It repeated its predecessor's success. It reached number 1. The album's final U.S. single was It Would Take a Strong, Strong Man. That kept the good times rolling. It went to number 10. So 3 top 10s from his first album.
It would take a strong, strong man.
Whenever You Need Somebody, it became Rick's best-selling album, which according to sources has sold over 15 million copies worldwide. So what happened after Never Gonna Give You Up and the success of the first album? Well, I think some of you know. It was a whirlwind ride for Rick. In the UK, he set a record for placing his first 8 singles in the top 10. Not a bad start at all. His first 3 albums all went top 10 as well. In the US, Astley scored a total of 5 top 10 hits and 2 more top 40 entries. Notably, 1988's She Wants to Dance With Me went to number 6 on the Hot 100, and 1991's Cry for Help reached number 7, one of my favorites. Let's just say that there was plenty of success to go around for Mr. Astley. And going around and around was kind of what Astley's life was like for years after. In Rick's words, it went from just being a lot of fun for everybody to it being pretty freaking intense. After years of going full throttle every single day, Rick Astley, he hit the wall. He just became burned out. It just wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't even about the music anymore. It was about selling the music. Felt like a traveling salesman. His schedule was inundated with TV appearances and interviews and TV appearances, pitching something that was no longer a reality in his life. And after a while, Rick just didn't want to do this anymore. So in 1993, at the age of 27, with the world laid at his feet, he just gave it all up. I guess while at the airport, he was scheduled to fly to New York for another TV interview. He just turned to his manager and told him he was going home. Rick's retirement, it would last up until about 2000, when he returned to the music industry without the spotlight. In 2001, he released his 5th studio album, Keep It Turned On.
Of you, and I'm not sleeping.
And in 2005, he released Portrait, a collection of covers.
In love with you.
Now, for years, Rick had been living happily out of the public eye. But then in 2007, while he was on vacation in Italy, I believe, he got an email from a friend. Attached to it was a link. Rick clicked on it, and then suddenly Rick Astley had been rickrolled. Not understanding really what was happening, he replied to his friend saying something to the effect of, "Okay, that's funny, whatever, talk to you later." But then his friend sent him another email with a different link. Had the exact same result. So Rick called him and asked him, "What's going on? What are you doing?" Laughing, his friend said, "It's called a rickroll. Don't you know what that is?" He then explained that Astley's song was blowing up on the internet all over. And confused, Rick Astley, he didn't know what to think of this. Okay, for just a little context here, the rickroll, it originated with a guy named Sean Cotter. At the time Sean was trying to be a YouTuber. He was a fan of the song. There was already a meme going around the internet called the duck roll. Just like the Rick roll, it was bait and switch kind of link, except that it took you to a picture of a duck with wheels and the word duck roll. That's a whole other bizarre tangent. I'm not going to get into it here. But anyway, as a joke, Sean Cotter started posting his Rickroll link on the controversial image board site 4chan. And when he woke up the next morning, his Rickroll video had tallied about 20,000 views. A week later, it was almost at 250,000. Soon Cotter's video was the hottest thing on YouTube. It reached the #1 most viewed for the week. From there, it spread to Facebook and just about every corner of the internet. The viewership numbers skyrocketed. Then on April Fool's Day in 2008, YouTube changed their homepage and linked to Cotter's video. It resulted in millions of people getting Rickrolled. From there, it snowballed into a global phenomenon, accompanied by all the strange things humans come up with on the internet.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down.
At one point, the Rickroll even became an official hotline that you could dial up to get your Astley fix. In multiple countries, I might add. Unfortunately, when I tried the US number, it actually has been disconnected. Now, in 2019, the San Diego Padres came up with one of the best Rickrolls of all time while they were hosting the Boston Red Sox. After starting into the Red Sox iconic sing-along anthem, Sweet Caroline, the Padres flipped the script, dropping Never Gonna Give You Up in place of the chorus. Of course, Padre fans cheered. Red Sox fans, not so much. The beauty of the Rickroll is that you just don't expect it. And so long as you have a sense of humor, it's a really funny diversion. Now, Rick, for his part, has come to embrace the Rickroll. Like soft rockers accepting yacht rock, After wrapping his head around what was happening, Rick, dare I say, just rolled with it. You can catch Rick rolling the punches, all over the internet, from, Wreck-It Ralph to Rick Talk, to the insurance commercials he's been in.
Is this still a thing?
He's happy to be in the joke and getting paid for doing it, I might add. Back in 2008, he even rickrolled the Macy's Days Parade. As far as media placements for Never Gonna Give You Up, the list is really long. It's made it into a lot of movies and TV shows. Queer as Folk, Playing the Field, Doctor Who, Cold Case, The Flash.
Please.
The Angry Birds movie, the Lego Batman. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Bumblebee, Family Guy, Gotham, Dark. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules, and The Boys, just to name a few. Never Gonna Give You Up was also featured prominently in Ted Lasso in the season 2 episode No Weddings and a Funeral. The scene has Rebecca Welton singing it in the middle of her father's funeral. Astley himself, commenting on the placement, said that they did an amazing, incredible job. It was so emotional, so moving, so incredible. People have said they even cried during the church scene, is what he said.
Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna let you down.
Never Gonna Give You Up, as you can imagine, has also been covered by a lot of artists. Tony Hadley, New Kids on the Block, Smash Mouth, En Vogue, Salt and Pepper, Heather Nova, Bastille's done it, Ben Folds, Jamiroquai.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down.
Barry Manilow, and actually Rick, he also performed his own iconic track along Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. Currently, Never Gonna Give You Up sits at just under 700 million streams on Spotify and 1.5 billion views on YouTube. I mean, this song is an absolute monster, a true standard of our day, like I said. So you know what? Do yourself a favor. Go rickroll somebody right now. Hey, thanks for watching. I might add that Rick Astley is also a big fan of the Smiths. He's covered their songs before. What do you think about Never Gonna Give You Up and Rick Astley? What are your memories of the song? What's the best rickroll you've ever seen or been a part of? Let's have a great discussion below. Do you think I'm crazy for putting it in the new standards? Let's have some fun discussions below. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.